Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yon's creation. It's Thursday, the 12th of March, 2026. These are the WTF reports. I'm your host, Dave vonKleist, trying to sort through the subterfuge, the gaslighting, the propaganda, and the lies. And guess what? The media does what they do best.
You won't be trusted anymore.
All right, here we go, folks. I had to take the day off yesterday. I did a replay of Tuesday's show, and so no worries. I'm okay. I'm just fine. But, just a lot of stuff is going on. It's so hard to sort through it all. And I can't help but think of, how many times history repeats itself. They say that if you don't learn from your history, you're destined to repeat it. And I have to tell you, there are so many people out there that just don't know anything. They just don't know anything. And when you do present them with information, they give you the fluoride stare. Case in point, I was at a place of business yesterday, and it was a healthcare facility. And I was waiting around, and I was talking to the receptionist, and they were saying, and everybody's in agreement. Yeah, this world is all messed up. We just, between this war that's going on, and the Epstein files, and the Charlie Kirk assassination. I mean, the economy, and just everybody's getting slapped upside the head from the left, the right, the top, the bottom. We're all just getting pummeled here with information. And, of course, a lot of it is bad. But anyway, the subject of the Epstein files sort of came up. I said, hey, there's some really interesting piece of information. And I happened to quote from Jimmy Dore, and then several others have covered this story. I talked about it last week. There was one of the Epstein files where Jeffrey Epstein, back in 2017, was in dialogue with his doctor. And it seemed that he was wanting to get some erectile dysfunction medication post-prostatectomy. All right, so he had a prostatectomy, he had his prostate taken out, and he was concerned that he might have some sort of dysfunction. All right, so you put that on the back burner. That's 2017. 2 years later, he gets unalived, and then people are reporting that there was an autopsy, and in the autopsy, he said he had a prostate. And when I mentioned this to the person, and they just didn't get it. They didn't put it together. They just sort of looked at me yeah. They didn't get it. If he had his prostate out, he couldn't have a prostate for the autopsy. Now, there's some people saying, the autopsy is fake. And so that's why I'm saying we don't know what's real and what isn't anymore. There's so much misinformation being thrown at us from, every direction that we have to be really careful and very discerning about what we repeat. And, I get taken once in a while. You get taken once in a while. We're told, it's this, and then it turns out to be that. So we have to exercise a bit of humility and, shed your ego, stuff your pride where the sun don't shine, and, be ready to admit that, okay, some previous belief that I had turns out to be false. So, anyway, we're just getting inundated left and right. There was an intelligence officer that just basically came out and said, yes, we're all being psyoped to the max. To the max. Now, a couple of things that have come to my attention. I was checking out Badlands Media. I've got a bunch of different media sources that I check out. And it was an interesting take on this. Now, we know we've been hearing, remember the Q posts and everything. They say, okay, we have to save Israel for last. All right. And more people around the country and indeed around the world have come to the realization that, yes, Israel is they're not a really nice country. They've been at it for a long, long, long time. And yes, they're involved in false flags, assassinations. And remember, the motto of the Mossad and the IDF, and I have to assume the entire Israeli cabinet, is, by means of deception thou shalt do war. By means of deception. Well, they're really good at that. They are really good at that. And, some of the papers that came out with the JFK assassination, some of the unredacted papers, basically come out and say you are not supposed to attach in any way, shape, or form any inference to Israel or the Mossad. Now, why would they have had that redacted? So is there an Israeli or a Mossad connection to the JFK assassination? I would agree that it's a very good possibility that that is the case. I mean, after all, you look at what JFK was doing. We all know the Federal Reserve bankers, what their ethnic backgrounds are. We all know that. And it's not anti-Semitic for me to say that. And I'll also readdress the term anti-Semite shortly. But the point is that, Kennedy issued an executive order to issue $450 million in United States notes, which went right up against the Federal Reserve. They didn't like that. And we also know that ever since the establishment of the Zionist state of Israel in 1948, that the Mossad and the CIA are joined at the hip. So we know that they both work together. That's been going in for a long, long time. So with that in mind, and then Kennedy said he wanted to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and cast them to the wind. Oh, okay, well, that's another reason why there might be some animosity between the blue state and JFK. And then, of course, Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister, was being called on the carpet. JFK wanted inspectors to go in and check out what they were doing with their nuclear proliferation. And their no, you're not allowed in here. No, okay? So the point is that there are several different things that that JFK had done to piss off the blue state people out there. So, I think that might have something to do with his assassination. And then, of course, there's the conspiracy theorist about the USS Liberty being attacked by the Israelis. Well, that was all conspiracy theory. Of course it was, yeah. And then we look at all the other things. What was the Israeli students that were in the World Trade Center for months before the attack on September 11th? And then there were the dancing Israelis who were there to, quote, document the event. Of course, Israel's not ever involved in any type of false flag or any skullduggery whatsoever. No, they would never do that. By deception, thou shalt do war. Yeah, they would never deceive us. No, they wouldn't do that. But in the past 2.5 years, the entire world has seen exactly what's been going on in Gaza. In real time, yes, they get to see the absolute destruction. Okay? And now, Israel's getting a little taste of that. Now, again, we can't trust what's coming in, what's being broadcast on the news, because some reports from other international sources are saying that Tel Aviv is being pummeled, absolutely bombed into non-existence. And yet there are reports coming in, we're just fine here. So, again, who do you believe? Are you going to believe the international news sources, or are you going to believe the spokespersons coming out of Israel? By deception, thou shalt do war. No, you got to believe what the Israelis say. Yeah, they'd never lie to us. No. But in the meantime, I'm watching this whole thing unfold, and I have to ask the question, what is the end result here? Now, all over the Middle East, all of the Middle Eastern countries, they're very, very well aware of the Greater Israel Project. And I mean, Netanyahu's there, in front of the UN holding up a map of the plan for a Greater Israel to take over just about the entire Middle East. That is what their plan is. Well, these other countries don't want to go along with that, which is why in the past year, 7 of them have been bombed by Israel. It's still going on in Lebanon, in Jordan. Excuse me. Anyway, so, you have to look at what they do and not what they say. It's always deeds and not words. So now we got this problem going on in Iran, and Trump is starting to backtrack a little bit. He's saying, he was going on what he was being told by Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio and all the other members of the cabinet. And, of course, all the members of the cabinet are influenced by that other country. So, even Trump, is he getting bad intel? Is that even the real Trump? I have to ask these questions. A lot of people say, central casting, Trump mentions it all the time. We all know that there are body doubles out there. They've been doing body doubles for political figures for, as long as we've been alive. As a matter of fact, was it 20 years ago or so on, There was a movie called Dave. It was with Kevin Kline and Sigourney Weaver. Remember that movie? Yeah, basically the president of the United States falls ill, and they didn't want the rest of the country to know that he wasn't doing well. So they find this guy out in the middle of Podunk, wherever. It happens to look just like the president, and they recruit him and bring him in, and they make him stand in for the president. Anyway, it's a good movie. But the premise is that, yes, they do have body doubles. And then you look at what Trump was saying in his first term, America first, America. Yeah, everybody got behind that. Drain the swamp. Yeah, everybody's behind that. But this Trump is doing the exact opposite. So is it the same guy? And if it is the same guy, what are they holding over him? Maybe it was those 3 magic words that we talk about on this program all the time. What are those 3 magic words?
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Yeah, bribery, coercion, and blackmail. Is he being blackmailed? You know, and again, I refer you to my own personal experience back in the 90s when Joyce and I were traveling all over the country trying to get help for the Gulf War veterans. And Joyce approached one of the senators who was on the panel in the the Senate report that discussed the fact that, yes, our troops had been exposed to chemicals and biologicals and experimental vaccines and experimental pills, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And she challenged him. She says, you know, these guys are sick because of all this, and you were you sat on this panel. You were, right there when all this information was recorded and documented. Why aren't you helping our veterans? And his response, because I have a 15-year-old daughter, I want to make sure she has a sweet 16th birthday party. That's how they work it. So again, what groups would be behind that? I don't know. By deception thou shalt do war. We got to keep that in mind, folks. So, there are groups out there that want to see Israel, basically done for. And the whole world is seeing Israel and the United States as the bad guys here. And as a matter of fact, I have a couple clips that I want to get to here. There was a statement made by the Ayatollah before he was assassinated. Let me see if I can pull that up. I'll have to translate it here. But let me see. Where is it? I had it here. I got so many clips. Usually I sit down and I edit them out. But I didn't have time to do that today. Like the past couple of days have been very, very busy. But let me see, where is it? Oh, gosh, I had it here. Well, what basically he's saying is that, when the Iranians chant death to America, he basically was explaining that doesn't mean I want all the Americans to die. He says, I don't have any problem with the American people. I have a problem with their government and with the influence that government is under. And there can be no doubt whatsoever at this point as to who's pulling the strings in our government. We have been taken over. There has been a coup d'etat. And anybody who doesn't see it because they choose not to see it. No, they'd never do that. No, that couldn't happen. No, that's all conspiracy theory. I remind you that all the conspiracy theorists are batting 1,000 these days. I challenge anybody to say, oh, that's just conspiracy theory when it's happening right before your eyes. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with a close friend of mine, and I was talking about the Kalergi plan. And, of course, when you look it up, you do a search on Google or something like that, the Kalergi plan. Oh, it's a conspiracy theory that says this and that and blah, 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 blah. Well, if you checked into what the Kalergi plan is about flooding countries with immigrants, placing, incredible pressures on the social services and also, the medical services. And let me see, here in the United States, all these illegal immigrants, not all of them, but many of them are getting Section 8 housing. They're getting cash stipends. They're getting credit cards. They're getting food stamps. They're getting all kinds of goodies. And that creates a whole, a lot of pressure on the local economy and the social services and the resources, and the infrastructure and on medical. this is what the Kalergi plan is. This is how you destroy a country from within. Of course, people are saying that's all conspiracy theory, but when it's happening right in front of your face, look what's going on in Europe. I mean, what's her name? Eva Vladingerbroek? Bless her heart. She's going up against Ursula von der Leyen from the EU, calling her out, saying, you're destroying all of Europe. The native population is now in the minority in their home countries. And she rattled off all these countries. That's the Kalergi plan. That's happening. It's all over Europe right now.
Oh, but it's just a conspiracy thing.
How can you say that? Don't believe your lying eyes. It's happening here. Anyway, I got way off the track. I digress. But if there is a plan to take out Israel, or to stop this regime, this evil, evil regime. And this evil regime has been in control. Again, we're not talking just about, the cabinet there. We're talking about an ideology. We're talking about people out there like Ursula von der Leyen announced at the EU, Europe has the values of the Talmud. Europe has the values of the Talmud? What's a Talmud? Well, people are going in and checking it out, and what's in there is not good. Dear Goyim, dear Amalek, dear subhumans, this is what they believe. And again, I keep telling you folks, it doesn't make any difference what you believe. It doesn't make any difference what I believe. What makes a difference is what you believe. What they believe. And they believe what they've been taught. And yes, they are involved in Baal worship, Moloch, human sacrifice, blood sacrifice. They believe that. And that's going,
oh, that's just conspiracy theory.
Raise your hand and slap yourself with it. So this is what we're up against. So if there is a plan to take out Israel and take out this global evil cabal, and it's not just limited to Israel. Again, you just need to look no further than the membership, or shall I say the AIPAC lists of how many of our members of Congress and the Senate have been paid off. And it's either through, lobbying, otherwise known as bribery, coercion, or as an example I just mentioned about the senator who was concerned about his 15-year-old girl making it to 16, or there's blackmail. Enter the Epstein issue. And the Epstein, that's just one of so many honeypot operations going on. So this is how they work it. But the point is, though, is that if you're going to take down this monster, and it's a big one. I mean, we're talking about the Federal Reserve bankers. We're talking about, people who control global economies. We're talking about people who control all the politicians and all of the CEOs and presidents of all these corporations. Now, the point is that Iran doesn't hate the American people. They've made it very clear it's Israel that has made themselves the enemy of Iran. So they want to go after Israel and all the Israeli tentacles. And those tentacles reach very much into the United States government and judicial. So that means anybody who's got that blue star makes themselves a target. And how many of them? Again, this country has about 2.5% of the population represented by that blue star. And yet you look at the media, okay? Look at CBS. How many people in positions of power at CBS have that blue star? What, 95, 99%? I haven't done a count, but I've seen the chart. Between the producers and the CEOs and all this, it's permeated. That's just CBS. But the same thing is true of NBC, ABC, CNN. And that doesn't make sense. How is it that 2.5% of the population of the United States controls 99% of our media and our government and our manufacturing and big pharma and big oil and big agri and? So this is what Iran is saying. They said, we don't hate the American people. We hate the people who are basically governed by this blue star. So those are the targets. Now, in the meantime, we're being told that we have to be careful because they've made an announcement, FBI announced, that we can expect a possible terrorist attack in California. Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can pull that up. Let me see. I got so many clips to go through. Yeah, well, by the way, while I'm looking for that, Bibi Netanyahu hasn't been seen in like 5 days. Yeah, what happened to him? So let's see here. I had it pulled up. There's so many things, and I didn't get to the issue about the announcement the FBI is making. And I guarantee you, Iran does not have a track record for false flags. No, they don't. I can't think of one that has occurred that it was ever attributed to Iran, because that's just not their MO. That's not what they do. That's what the blue hats do. So anyway, well, maybe I'll abandon that. I'll take a look at that maybe at a later time. But I've got a couple things here. John Meirschiemer made a very interesting statement about the U.S., what a peaceful nation this is. Yeah. I mean, ever since, we're coming up on our 250th birthday in this country, and I think that, I can't remember how many years we haven't been at war, but I think it's like 12. I mean, it's really a low number. How many years has the United States been involved in a war since we were born 250 years ago? I don't have the exact answer, but I think it's safe to say most of them. But anyway, here's John Meirschiemer.
I think that we are an incredibly ruthless country. The amount of murder and mayhem that we've created around the world is just unbelievable. I was looking at a study the other day put out by Lancet, which is a scientific journal, and they did a study. This was put out, you can see it on the internet. It was put out in November of 2025. And what the article did was it looked at sanctions, American sanctions, from 1971 to 2021. 1971 to 2021. And it asked what were the consequences of those sanctions. And we murdered 38 million people.
Wow.
38 million people. The amount of havoc we have wrought on the Middle East in recent years is just stunning. You think about the consequences of the Iraq War, what we do in places like Venezuela, Cuba, Iran. You understand we're using this tremendous economic leverage we have to basically starve people, to make them suffer, to inflict great punishment on them so that they'll rise up against their government. You understand that this is what we're doing in Venezuela. This is what we're doing in Iran. We're inflicting massive punishment on these people. Given all that, I find it very difficult to talk about the United States as a noble country. I just don't think that we are exceptionally virtuous when it comes to foreign policy.
Yeah, interesting, huh? And, we're not the good guys. We're just not. And as a matter of fact, I found the audio clip. I'm going to have to translate it. And this is the Ayatollah. I don't know when this was taken. It was before he was taken out, obviously. But this issue about death to America and his explanation as to what he meant by that, I'm going to go ahead and play this. I'll have to translate, so I'm going to stumble through this. So hold on a second here. Okay. Okay, the U.S. authorities complain and ask, why do Iranians say death to America? Let me make something clear for U.S. leaders. John Bolton and Mike Pompeo, it means death to Americans with... just slow down. Okay, let's see. It means death to American rulers. We have no problem with the American people. Death to America is about the rulers of America. It's about a group of people who are currently in charge. There will be others when the next term of office begins. As long as America continues its wickedness, Death to America. The Iranian nation will not abandon death to America. So basically, he's talking about our rulers. He's not talking about the American people. And, to be honest, I mean, all of you folks out there that are, looking at this whole thing, do we hate the Iranian people? I mean, yes, there are extremists. They do have their religious regime. And let me remind you something. This is a really interesting point. Christians and Muslims have a common belief. All right? We both believe that there's going to be an Antichrist. Those are things that are a common belief for both of our religions. All right? So we believe that there's going to be an Antichrist. However, the Israelis believe that it's the coming of their Messiah. They don't believe, they believe that the Messiah is coming. They don't believe that there's an Antichrist coming. They believe it's going to be their Messiah. But what if their Messiah is the Antichrist that the Christians and the Muslims are talking about? Just something to think about. Okay? I just thought I'd throw that out there because, this is kind of important. I mean, that's something that we may have.
I think we are incredibly rude.
As a matter of fact, I saw an interview by some folks that were in Iran, and they were in their public transit systems there, the subways, whatever you want to call it, the tubes, okay? And there is a huge train station there that is dedicated to Mother Mary. Yeah, in Iran, in a Muslim country, in an extremist country, yeah? And they've got this huge, beautiful train station dedicated to Mother Mary. They believe that she was indeed holy. They believe that Jesus may not have been the Son of God, but he sure as heck was a prophet, and they revere Jesus. So you put that in your pipe and smoke it. And so this is why I'm saying these are a couple of things that the Muslims and the Christians have in common, and it's not something that people really want to talk about, right? Anyway, let me see. I've got some other things. Oh, I tell you what, I'm going to take a quick break. I just realized what time it is. And I'll open up the phone lines as well. If you want to call in, I'd like to get your 2 cents on this. Okay, the phone number here is 215-867-8255. You're up for it? Give me a call.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And of course, you can get more tank if you visit our website. Come on, you could do that. Most of you are listening online anyway. Go to our website, TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors page, and it'll take you down to an area where you can click on the box about Get More Tank. Read all about the specifications and details, how and why this fuel catalyst works. It's not a fuel additive. It's different. It's a catalyst. It makes your fuel burn more efficiently. It makes your engine burn cleaner. And the biggie is that you get more mileage out of a tank of gas. And if you're depending upon your make, model, and year of your vehicle and your driving habits, that's going to determine what type of fuel economy you will enjoy. Anywhere between 15 to 20%, which means money in your pocket. And we all know what's going to happen to the price of gasoline now. Yeah, oil is going up on the world stage, and with all the stuff that's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, yeah, prices are going to go up. So now, more than ever, is it time for you to consider trying out Get More Tank. Doesn't make sense not to. Like I said, if you're getting 20% better mileage, one purchase pays for a tank of gas. It's crazy not to use this stuff. So go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, click on the sponsors page, and get more tank. Okay, 36 minutes past the hour, whatever hour you're sitting in. And again, these are the WTF reports. And, okay, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with that Middle East thing. RT, which is Russia Today, the Moscow equivalent of CNN, and I got more faith in their reporting than I do with CNN, to be quite honest with you. They are reporting the following. It's saying that the U.S. is allegedly in talks with Iran to permanently vacate all their bases and withdraw from the Middle East, which is one of the demands that Iran is making. And you know what? The U.S. may just have to comply. Anyway, here's the top story on RT.
Okay, some updates emerging from the Middle East, and they appear to be significant ones. Our correspondent in Tehran has learned that political discussions are underway at a regional level and that U.S. military assets across the Middle East could soon, allegedly, be evacuated for a period of time. That would then lead to Iran halting its strikes on Gulf states. Just to recall that it said that it would attack those nations if the U.S. had military presence there, and that is what has been seen over the past 12 days. Also, one of Tehran's key goals, we know, is the permanent withdrawal and closure of American bases in the region. The Persian nation, indeed, has threatened that it will not allow those facilities to be rebuilt. When we get a little bit more on this story, we'll verify exactly as to how many, if not all, those U.S. military bases either closed down or shipped out, and what that will mean for the conflict at large in the coming hours.
Okay, so that's what's being reported. Now, I want to point out that Iran, of course, has these neighboring countries. Okay, there's Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and Kuwait. And all of these countries have allowed our military bases, U.S. military bases, to plant their bases around to be the eyes and the ears of our military in the Middle East. Well, Iran is basically saying, look, we're going to take out these bases because we know that all these bases, they're owned and run by the United States, but we also know who's controlling the United States. Okay, it all leads back to that blue star. So as long as the blue star is in charge of the U.S. government, I don't think we can argue that fact all day long, but as long as the blue state is in control of the United States, and the United States has its military bases, radar, et cetera, placed in all of these Middle Eastern countries, these Middle Eastern countries make themselves an enemy of Iran. And Iran is saying, look, we don't want you as an enemy, but for you to allow these bases to be used to threaten us, if you're doing that, then you're not being very friendly. You're not being an ally. You're siding with the enemy. So as long as you allow these military bases and that presence, you make yourselves an enemy of Iran, and we will hit you. It's common sense, doesn't it? So anyway, so now these countries are faced with the very difficult decision of misaligning or unaligning themselves with the United States. Or, if they don't cut their ties with the U.S., then they're going to face the wrath of Iran. And let me remind you that from what we're hearing, and again, right now it's difficult to believe anything, but common sense tells me that after 40 years of saber rattling from the blue state country, and of course Bibi Netanyahu has been screaming, and we've got him on video as early as 1995, saying Iran is only weeks away from a nuclear weapon. We have to stop Iran. Iran. Year after year after year after year. So you think that Iran has just been sitting there growing flowers? No, if you're constantly being threatened by a nuclear power, you're going to do everything you can to prepare a response and a defense. So don't think for a New York minute that Iran hasn't been building bases underground. I mean, we're doing it. We know about the tunnels Tunnels go all over the Middle East and all through Europe. And here in the United States, we know that there's tunnels all underneath in big cities underneath. We know that. It's not conspiracy theory. If you think it's conspiracy theory, raise your hand and slap yourself with it. So don't think that Iran hasn't had time to build up their defenses and their offensive weapons underground. I've seen some video. Some guy posted a video, and the camera's looking out what appears to be an absolute desolate desert wasteland. There's nothing there. And the camera pans around. There's nothing but sand and wind. And then all of a sudden, whoosh, out of the sand shoots a missile. Where the heck did that thing come from? So if they got one, you bet your bottom dollar they got a lot more. And they've been building up for years and years and decades to get ready to have to defend themselves from the madmen, the Talmudic, satanic, cannibalistic, blood-drinking, sadistic, child-sacrificing, raping, blood-drinking cannibals. And even Putin recognized that. He says, yeah, the vampire's ball is over. So, yeah, the rest of the world sees what's going on. But the American people, like I mentioned a little while ago in this broadcast, try to explain, say, hey, guess what? Epstein didn't have a prostate, and yet the autopsy said he did. And they couldn't put the pieces together. She just looked at me and sort of blinked, and she says, yeah. They don't understand what that means. So, I mean, this is Americans have been so dumbed down, so unbelievably dumbhead-nonged, hit with a stupid stick from the mainstream media all their lives, that when you put information on it, they have no ability to take a piece of information, put it in one hand, and information in the other hand, and weigh it out for themselves. They just give you the fluoride stare. Anyway, so how's this going to unfold? Well, according to Scott Ritter, it's not going to go too well. He's saying Iran won't stop until the U.S. leaves the Middle East. Well, if you make yourself unwelcome, people don't want you around. Anyway, here's Scott Ritter.
Ended, but I'm saying in those 12 days, the U.S. wasn't there except bombing at the end.
Because it wasn't
could happen again.
It wasn't supposed to be there. The 12-day war is supposed to be a regime change war. Israel was trying to decapitate, achieve the quick gain. They didn't. The U.S. came in at the end, midnight hammer, sort of a gamesmanship to bring a ceasefire about. That won't happen again. Iran will not. The world needs to understand. The U.S. and Israel murdered Ali Khamenei. They murdered the supreme leader. People need to stop pretending this wasn't an event. This is a earth-shattering event. The Iranian people are enraged. They will not stop this war until they get their revenge. And their revenge will be against the nation state Israel that perpetrated this and against the United States. This doesn't end with the United States having a military footprint in the Middle East. Iran will seek to eliminate that. Now, if Donald Trump is willing to withdraw the totality of American forces from the Middle East, that could bring about the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and peace and comfort with the Gulf Arab states. But if Donald Trump wants to pretend that the United States has an inherent right to continue to have a military presence in the Middle East after they use that military presence to carry out a surprise attack against Iran, you're smoking dope. And if you think Israel gets to continue to exist in a manner that threatens Iran, no, Israel murdered the supreme leader. They now have the son of the supreme leader as the supreme leader. You think he's going to sit there and say, it's all cool. You murdered my dad. You killed my daughter. You guys tend to forget about that. 14-month-old granddaughter of Ali Khamenei. Murdered by Israel. Murdered. And you want to pretend that they're going to sit there and say, it's all good. 170 school children murdered by the United States. And you want to pretend that Iran's going to go, it's good. They blew up an oil facility. It's raining acid rain, death, oil, death, fire in the streets of Tehran. And you want the Iranians to go, that's cool. What the hell? Let bygones be bygones. No, Israel and the United States entered an existential war against Iran.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there because everybody knows that the United States is acting basically being controlled by Israel. Don't tell me otherwise. Just look at Trump's cabinet. Israel has taken over the United States. Simple as that. It really is. It really is that way. And again, I have nothing against any ethnic group. And I'm going to point out once again, if you go against Israel, the powers that be are trying to call you an anti-Semite. They're trying to link criticism of Zionism as the same as criticism of Judaism. And it just isn't that way. It just is not that way. And again, I keep pointing out, things are so upside down. You've heard me talk about it in the past. Johns Hopkins University did an ancestry study with Israelis and found 97.5% of them are not indigenous. They are from Eastern Europe or from the North American continent. 97.5% of Israelis. They are not indigenous. They did the same ancestry study on the Palestinians and found that 80% of them were indigenous. Their bloodlines go back thousands of years to that land. So, without any further discussion, that makes the Palestinians the Semites. And it makes the Israelis the anti-Semites. That's how bass-ackwards everything is. And meanwhile, like I said, Scott Ritter, I got also another comment here. Judge Napalitano and Gerald Celente were having a very heated discussion. If I can find that one, I'll play that. But here's another statement from Scott Ritter. Basically, he's talking about the FAFO equation. Listen to this.
Scott, as you were coming online, a report came out from the Washington Post. I think this is one of your I told you so moments. According to that report, Israel is starting to talk about an exit ramp from the Iran war. Behind the scenes, Israeli officials are reportedly starting to discuss possible exit ramps as the war with Iran escalates. There are growing worries about regional escalation and damage to the global economy. Right now, there's no clear endgame, but the final decision largely depends on Trump. One Israeli official put it bluntly, quote, "I'm not sure it's in our interest to fight until the regime is toppled." Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. I believe this is the interviewer. And I believe it may be an Iranian interviewer. I'm not quite sure. I was more concerned with Scott Ritter's response, which is the following. That just came out a few minutes ago.
Too bad. So sad, too bad. You shouldn't have started, dude. Let's remind it. Israel, carried out the surprise attack against Iran. This is a war of choice. You didn't need to do this. You opted into this. Now Iran has said, we're not finished till you're done. So Israel doesn't get an off-ramp. And the choice isn't with Donald Trump. What hubris, what arrogance. The choice is with Iran. This war finishes when Iran says it's done, and Iran won't say it's done until the United States is evicted from the Middle East and Israel is destroyed. Welcome to the reality, Israel. You created this. Did you see the IRGC's new targeting guidance? Now that one has the munitions? Now that they've eliminated the air defense capability, and we saw that last night. Israel has no air defense capability, none whatsoever. Iran will only fire missiles with a 1-ton warhead, meaning that the day of coming in with small warheads is over. Israel is now ready to get the find out aspect of the fool around equation. And all other nations that want to play this game will do as well. So again, to the United Arab Emirates, please don't be stupid, because you will be taken off the map. The same thing with Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. Azerbaijan needs to understand that as well. Iran's not playing around. They have missiles, thousands of missiles that they haven't used yet. New missiles, hypersonic missiles with huge warheads.
Listen to this.
Very accurate. Remember when we talked about how the Israelis, they're down to 12 launchers. Well, I think that's been proven to be a lie, because Iran is salvoing far more than 12 missiles at a time now against Iran. The Iranians have a plan. They have a game plan. Everything's going according to their plan. They're collapsing the global economy as we speak. Again, that's the fool around aspect of it. You're going to find out. Oil's through the roof. And if this continues, there won't be oil to be produced in the Middle East, because if Israel and this is, again, a message to those people in the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and elsewhere. If you sit back and do nothing while Israel strikes energy production facilities inside Iran, understand you will pay the price. You will be destroyed. And there's nothing you can do to stop it.
That's right.
Your air defenses don't work either. And you're about ready to get hit with 1-ton plus warheads. the level of destruction will be mind-boggling. So I just wish people would stop pretending that Israel and the United States have a vote anymore. They created this problem. They've lost this war. They don't get to dictate the outcome other than acknowledging their defeat and doing what Iran demands. And in the case of the United States, that's get the hell out of the Middle East. And with Israel, stop playing the great Israeli game. Start recognizing an independent Palestinian state and learn how to live in peace and harmony with your neighbors.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, folks, I was mentioning that before I played this clip. Iran has had decades to prepare for this. And yes, they have not started using their updated missiles yet. They're just using up all the stuff that they manufactured during the 90s and the early 2000s, and all their drones, et cetera, and their smaller missiles. They haven't even unleashed the new technology yet. And like Scott Ritter was saying, you know, these things have 1-ton warheads. Can you imagine the destruction of something like that? And plus, there's other weapons that we don't even know about. Some folks are saying that, you know, maybe the United States is using tactical nukes right now, which I wouldn't put it past them. But again, we can't rely on any type of information coming in. All we can go on is what we get from the international sources, because you sure as heck can't trust the domestic sources. And yes, if I could find that clip about the FBI warning Americans in California to expect a terrorist attack from Iran. Of course, it hasn't happened yet, but they already know it's going to be Iran. But, you know, those false flag terrorist attacks are not Iran's modus operandi. No, they don't do that. That's not in their playbook. At least we haven't seen it ever. But we have seen it over and over and over again from another entity whatsoever. Anyway, let me see if I got enough time for this one. Yeah, Tucker Carlson was talking with Douglas McGregor, Colonel McGregor. And anyway, I'm going to play a little bit of this clip here. Here it is.
I think you have to find an intermediary, first of all, someone who is not part of the problem. My personal preference, if I were advising the president, is to call Prime Minister Modi in India. Now, you can say, well, he was just in Israel. Well, that's fine. He has good relations with Israel. That's not a bad thing. He also has good relations with Iran. He's never been an enemy of the Iranian people. Neither are the Shiite Iranians his enemy. He knows that. And he has reasonable relations with the Chinese. They have their differences up in the mountains, in the Himalayas, the Hindu Kush, and that is a legacy of British colonialism. But my point is that he's historically leading a neutral state, and a neutral state that is growing in stature, in power, in influence, and importance. We should recognize that and welcome it, not treat it as a problem. And I think if President Trump talked to him and said, look, we need to end this. And somebody will say, well, why do you need to end it? Because if we don't, we're going to hit $300 per barrel of oil. We're going to watch 60 to 80% of the stock value crash. People are going to lose trillions in wealth. It will be a disaster. And it's not something we'll recover from. We've already seen that the Israelis hit a refinery on the outskirts of Tehran. And what did Iran do? They destroyed the refinery and its supporting infrastructure in Haifa. How does this help us? How does this help anybody? The damage that's being done is going to be semi-permanent. And by that, I mean it's going to take years to recover from this. The Qatari government has said, we're shutting down. We can't store anymore. We can't drill anymore. We can't refine anymore. I mean, this is a catastrophe. We look at this and say, well, only 3% of our oil comes from the Gulf. Well, I got news for you. 50% of it goes to India. 50% goes to China. 70+% goes to Japan. Mid 60% or so, 64 or 65% goes to South Korea. Now, did we call the president or the prime minister of Japan? Did we call the president of Korea and say, by the way, we're considering a war against Iran, action against the Iranians? And we want to know what you think the impact will be on your country because you are friends of ours. You are our allies.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think we are acting like the biggest bully in the schoolyard. The hell with everybody else. This is what I want. And I'm going to pound your face into the dust. I mean, we've all seen those people. They exist. I grew up with some of them, had the crap kicked out of me once or twice at recess. I know exactly what that is. Well, you can't do that in international relations for very long before people gang up against you.
Yeah, that's what we're up against here. And I was saying in the beginning of today's show, we all heard about the Q post saying, saving Israel for last. Well, here's an angle. Now, is it possible? Now, we all know that if you're going to take down the deep state, if we're going to take down the New World Order, if we're going to take down the cabal, what have you, that they are in control of the finances. Yes, the Federal Reserve, the international bankers, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, blah, blah, blah. The central banks that are all over the world. And they work and collude to destroy any country that works outside of their control. Which is why they took out Saddam Hussein, because he wanted to go to a gold standard. And they took out Muammar Gaddafi for the same reason. And they were, of course, been saber-rattling against Putin. Putin bad, because Putin doesn't want to have anything to do with the global international banks either. And neither does Iran. But anyway, I digress. Point is, if taking out Israel and the global, shall we say, movers and shakers and policymakers, how do you take down a huge, huge global organization like that? Not going to be easy. So my question is it possible? Is it remotely possible that this is a huge, huge global plan to take out Israel and the international banks? I'm not quite sure. Anyway, I got one more clip here, and that's going to take us to the end of the show. Judge Napalitano was talking with Gerald Celente, and they didn't hold back. Here it is.
The Guardian reported this morning that the school where the 170 girls were incinerated was a private school for the daughters of Revolutionary Guard officers.
Yeah, listen to this.
That school was intentionally targeted. Those little girls were intentionally incinerated in order to humiliate and torment their fathers. This is barbarity of the highest sort. This is Gaza-like barbarity that the United States engaged in at the direction of the Israelis.
Bingo. At the direction of the Israelis.
You're 100% wrong. Trump said the Iranians bombed that school.
Oh,
and they just showed, by the way, the United States missile, whatever it was, going into it. There was a picture of that.
There's a young New York Times reporter. I have no idea what his politics are, but he's sort of the toast of the town this morning. He went right for Trump's jugular. Why are you the only person in your government who says this? Why, when Pete Hegseth was standing over your shoulder, did he not back you up? What evidence do you have that the Iranians bombed their own school with little girls? It's the New York Times reporter saying this directly to Trump's face. Well, I don't have all the facts in yet, but this is what I believe.
I believe my opinion, I think.
Correct. Same thing.
Remember what he said, international law doesn't matter.
Yes.
It's only what I think.
Yes, you just...
We have in front of us a crazy bastard spewing out bullshit.
Ooh.
And if you come out against them, maybe they'll kill you.
Wow. Tell us what you really think.
Right in front of everybody's... Hey, it's what I think. My opinion. Who the hell are you? Hey, don't you know who I am? I'm the president. What happened to this country? Where is the outrage?
Where is the outrage? Good question. Speaking of outrage, how come there's no outrage about the Epstein stuff? We're not talking about that anymore because we're being distracted. Squirrel! Yeah, well, you know what? When you're dealing with a huge scandal, a gargantuan, a mammoth scandal, and you don't want people to talk about it, you have to make an even bigger, gargantuan, mammoth distraction, like a war. Boy, people got out for BLM. They got out for all of that other stuff, but boy, they're not out there for getting, the rapists and the murderers and the cannibals out of our government, because squirrel is a war. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's Thursday edition. If you're listening on Rumble, BitChute, Facebook, or YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And, spread the word. I'll be back again tomorrow, God willing, so God bless you all. Stay safe, stay free, and I'll see you tomorrow. La, 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 la. Got about 5 seconds before it disconnects. You have a wonderful day. Bye.